4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine. 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah. I look into the sky with all the beautiful color, but there's more than just for me, so gonna share it with another. I got to show, to give, let out. I want to sing and shout. Take a look and see a beautiful morning.
Been in here and people are roaring with laughter, so.
It's a dirty showgirl.
Well, it's clean dirt.
You have here the best of the best.
Yes.
So we have many celebrities here. The Harley Madison come over here, and the Usher come over here many often, and the Paris Hilton come here.
Boy, I'm dating myself, but it's okay. Nobody else will. Oh. That's so Vegas. I'm Christina Keller, your host of That's So Vegas TV. Today we are not downtown in the Arts District in Las Vegas. We are here at a fabulous private residence. Grant Philipo has been a curator of some fabulous Las Vegas, oh my gosh, costumes, sets, all kinds of things as far back as the 70s of Vegas history, showgirls and things of that nature. So we're going to enter into a world from long ago. And prepare yourselves. This collection is really, truly fantastic. Let's see if Grant's home. Hello, Grant.
How are you?
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
You're here.
Thank you so much for inviting us into your fabulous home,
Yes.
which is also a museum.
Yes, it is.
I know that this has been a 40-year labor of love for you, collecting some of the most beautiful, exquisite costumes, pieces of jewelry, and set designs and props from some of the greatest shows in Las Vegas. And even you have some stories about Jubilee up in Reno. But I'm going to hand the mic to you for a minute while you take us upstairs.
Okay.
Okay, and tell us where we're going and what we're about to see.
Well, we're going to the second floor.
Shall I go first?
Well, we could have told who this guy is.
Oh, would you please?
This is from the movie Matrix Reloaded. It's the second of the 2 Matrix films with Keanu Reeves. And we do have his cape, but if we put the cape on him, we would have to switch his body angle to where his foot would be over there, and everybody'd have to jump over his leg in order to get into the living room. Mm-hmm. And as we go upstairs, there are showgirl costumes and movie costumes, and you didn't have to do that, but if you want to, that's okay.
I'm taking off my shoes just out of respect and because
it's actually a joke. She's referring to a sign that says, "Please remove your shoes at least."
At least.
And I've had that in all my apartments and homes forever. And yes, it is just a subtle suggestion.
I'm going to follow that suggestion so I'm fleet of foot. There's a lot to see here.
Exactly.
I'm excited.
Ladies first.
Thank you so much.
Said the one that's here in the red is a showgirl costume. This one here is from the movie Year One. At the top of the stairs is the magician Dallas Fuston, the showman of magic, burlesque legend Gypsy Louise. This is Michael Travis's costume that he designed for the TV show Tony, Orlando, and Dawn. He did a lot of incredible shows. This is one of my creations. It's a plant guy that kind of freaks people out.
He's fabulous.
Just in this little corner alone is a lot of history. This one here is also Michael Travis. This is Dionne Warwick's. This one here is Michael Travis. It's Raquel Welch, which is funny. When we used to give tours, it's amazing how as you get older, people change. And you mentioned Dionne Warwick, Raquel Welch, Anne Margaret, Linda Carter, and these people look at you like deers in headlights because they have no idea who these people are because they're so frickin' young.
But they paved the way for what can we say to Jennifer Lopez and Britney Spears? Because although they are singers, everybody dances and everybody acts, don't they? To wear these costumes, we're going to talk a little bit more about that because when I look at all the beadwork and everything, can you tell us a bit about what they're constructed? And actually, it is a construction. I mean, it's design, but there's so many elements. So tell us a bit about that.
Well, these dresses that I just pointed out, they're all beaded, which is crochet beading, and it's done with a crochet needle. And Raquel Welch is really fascinating because it's a #1 bugle bead. That's the smallest bugle bead that they make, and it's solid. They use the entire week's budget for everybody's costumes to make that one gown for her. for Raquel Welch, and it's solid. It's like going to Chihuly and asking him to hand blow you a gown.
Ooh.
38 pounds, and nothing in that dress stretches, and it has what they call sculpted jeweling, which means the budget was so enormous they could put rhinestones on top of rhinestones, and they didn't care if everything showed or not. The other one that's really fascinating is the Anne Margaret. That's a Bob Mackie.
Gorgeous.
It's a couture gown, and people always go, oh, couture, but they know nothing about what that means. All it means is that no sewing machine ever touched that dress. It is all made by hand. And that was for her performance at Caesar's Palace. It's a very famous gown because down below there's a picture that shows you Anne Margaret wearing the dress, but right beside it is the cover of TV Guide that shows you Oprah Winfrey, when she lost a ton of weight, wearing the exact same dress, which of course never happened. No. The reality is they took her face off, they took Anne Margaret's face off, and they put Oprah's on it. And when I worked for the Hollywood Wax Museum and I had designed this big salute to Las Vegas, I went to Anne Margaret and her people and I asked, would she please give us an actual costume? And she refused. She said that at that time in her life, she was an actress. She didn't want to be reminded that she had been a star on stage in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough in 1980 or 81, when I was living here before the MGM fire, to be in a film with her. And she had picked us out of the lineup. I was a high fashion model at that time, and had us in her scene. And it was on my birthday. And the amazing thing is that I wrote about that in the letter when she refused to give us a costume and didn't want to have her figure on display. And her reasoning being, I'm an actress now. And I said, you know, you were talking about people doing many different things. The reality is, as I said, you're not just a singer, you're not just a dancer, you're not just an actress. You do all these incredible things. And people like me, who was a singer and dancer, all we wanted was to be in either her show or Juliet Prowse's. So the reality is I'm like, you're like whatever, a 4-time threat or a 5-time threat. How could you ever be ashamed of being such an iconic star? Mm-hmm. And her manager wrote me back and he said, okay, kid, you made her cry. So the reality is you can have whatever you want, with the stipulation that Roger Smith, her husband, had to approve of the figure, and then Bob Mackie would actually give me whatever gown I chose.
Well, hey there. Welcome to That's So Vegas. This is our new studio in the famous Las Vegas Arts District, downtown Las Vegas. We're here to rock your world. And I was going to ask you how it felt to be breaking good here at the Bellagio for the National Center.
What you did.
Your last CD was My Secret Life. I wanted to ask you what your secrets were. Tune in and turn on with us in downtown Las Vegas. This is where the action is, and that's So Vegas.
They ended up giving me the costume back in the 80s.
It is simply stunning.
And it breaks away.
Yes.
It's really amazing because it breaks away.
I'm afraid to touch anything.
In the show, she wore the lavender first, then she had the flesh underneath. She wore this, and then it broke down one more time. The guys would take it off of her, and that's what she ended up wearing. I don't know if I'm blocking
that is
your view.
exquisite.
But the other thing that's fascinating is for you to look on the inside. We've got a lot of lights, so it's kind of hard to tell. But the reality is all that is hand knotted, so you can see every bit of that, including her leotard, the lavender overdress. That's just a ton of work.
I can't imagine how many labors it took, or how many seamstresses, let's say.
Exactly. And in the 80s, it was valued at $20,000.
Oh, my goodness.
You could have bought a very fancy car back then for that kind of money. So,
well, this is
just
only
let you
one
know.
of many.
Exactly.
Let me take this off your hands so that we
Okay.
can move along here a little bit. I know that you have another room upstairs, and that's where you actually are constantly restoring these, aren't you?
Right, and designing and building for our own shows. And, many of these costumes, unfortunately, are not taken good care of. And so they need someone to breathe life back into them. I always tell people I'm the custodian of glitz and glamour. And that's kind of my big part of my job, is just making these things look brand new again.
I know too, and we're going to talk about that in another segment, but really, and part of the reason that we're here today is what we're encouraging people to help get you into a museum. You have 4 other locations full of more costumes and things of that nature.
Sets and props from the shows and everything else. The majority of the jewelry, which is a vast collection, we're the only company in the United States that can legally own the Lido jewels, which were designed by Falco. And those we store here, but all the big sets and the curtains from almost every major showroom in Las Vegas, and props, and some of the costumes that won't be damaged, those go into the storage units that we pay for every month.
You know, that was so fascinating about just this one particular costume, and I know that you've just got a wealth, over 40,000 items in all the properties, but right here we're focusing a lot on just the Showgirl costumes because we still have some living legends here in this town. But I'm going to follow you and I'm going to hand over the mic.
All right. Linda Carter.
Hello, Linda.
This is a headdress that's from the Lido in Paris. It's pre-Falco. The rest of the costume I designed and built. This one here is also one that I designed and built, as well as this. This dress is pretty fascinating because the only real fabric in this dress is the flesh. All of this is ribbon, and if you look, you can see all the holes in it. It's one of a kind. It was done by my friends John and Frank. They had the design studio in LA, the only non-union design studio. It's one of a kind. Over here is from Crazy Things that are in the collection. That's from the movie Viva Rock Vegas, the Flintstone film. And it's real leather. It was worn by a little old lady in the movie. It needs to be dusted. The thing I really, really like is that the fake fur is made out of fake fur and wigs. They did the wigs so that they would have the much longer hair.
Nice.
These gowns, the black one, the yellow one, this white one, those are all from Enter the Night, which was the show that replaced the Lido. It was produced by Ted Lorenz. These are all Stephen Urich gowns. He was not the original designer for the show. Bill Hargate was. But there were so many complaints about how fabulous the Lido costumes were and how unfabulous Enter the Night's costumes were, that they went to the East Coast to Stephen Urich's shop, and many of these gowns they bought right off the rack. That's how elaborate his wardrobe was. This is a very unique Falco gown because it was made for the Lido, and it ended up being used in Enter the Night because when they complained about their wardrobe, they just went in and picked any of the jewelry or any of the costumes that they wanted to use. They just picked them out. And women, although all the weight of this entire dress goes right on the back of your neck and it's very heavy, women love to wear this dress.
I can see why. Look at that.
That red costume is April March, the First Lady of Burlesque. I just did that costume for her. She performed at Beehoff at the Orleans. Back here are when we were talking a little...
I'll go stand by the shoulder.
Okay. We were talking a little bit about Colette Smith, also known as Barb or Barbara. These are 3 costumes from the Folies Bergère in Paris from the 1960 production that the producers of the show, at the end of the run, she is what they considered a good girl. They went to her and they asked her, was there anything in the show that she liked? They liked her so much, they gave her all 3 of these costumes. This is a painting of her. You can see her actually wearing the costumes in the photos down below. And now we ended up at the entrance to my office.
We love your office. This is where the heartbeat and the brains.
Now watch your step.
And the talent.
It's pretty amazing when you consider that 7 years ago, we didn't have the treatments we have now. We cure 80% of children with cancer. If you think about that, I mean, go back 50 years, we were curing 20 to 30%. This is the miracle story of modern medicine. We understand what makes this cancer tick. And of course, without donors from around the world, this just couldn't happen. And there's one thing we're focused on here at St. Jude, and that's beating this thing.
Oh, look at all the headdresses. Oh my goodness, look at you, Grant.
This is, I guess, where the magic happens. But this costume right now is in the process of being refurbished. It's also a Falco. We have, they're not painted.
Strictly a mannequin.
Yes, it is a mannequin. The body jewelry that's on here, the G-string, that's all original. For some reason, somewhere along the line, they cut the leggings off and the arm pieces, so we're replacing those. They have to be jeweled first. The feather collar is not original, but it's made like the original. And we have an original feather collar. It's just laying in another area. I used to have two incredible cutting boards, cutting tables in here. Now it's reduced to a part of one. People that don't know what a showboy is, this is one of my versions of a showboy.
Now that's a showboy.
That's Eric Thompson. That's from the 80s. He was known as the Las Vegas showboy in LA. He was the top grossing male stripper, and I did all of his wardrobe.
My, he's a beautiful specimen, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
And he lives in Palm Springs.
Oh, very nice.
And this actually was the master bedroom of the house. This house was owned by Kenny Kerr from 1990 for about 3 years. And the reason that we agreed to get this house was the simple fact that I could hang 6 rows of costumes from the ceiling on each side.
We do have our prerequisites.
Exactly. And hidden amongst all this mess are the sewing machines, the rhinestone machines.
Oh.
If you go in the back and you go up some stairs, you go into the fitting room where we have tons of Bob Mackie, Ray Agee costumes from Hallelujah Hollywood that need to be refurbished because they were left in a gazebo for more than 10 years out in the desert with no protection.
It just absolutely appalls me. It blows my mind to think that.
And then there's a vault, and the vault is where we keep some of the greatest things in the collection that aren't on display, like Sonia Henny's costume from the 1920s.
Oh my goodness.
That is so delicate because it wasn't taken good care of that if you touch it, it starts to crumble. So when we get our public venue, we'll have it in a refrigerated case so that people can look at it but not touch it.
So how do you restore something like that you can't even touch? It's so fragile.
That isn't something that I would actually restore because it's made out of leather, fur, and it's all beaded and jeweled. And the problem is that because of the leather is what everything is attached to, it's falling apart. So it's better just to preserve it in a situation where it can't get in any worse condition.
Right.
Most of the pieces, I contact the designers and I ask them, is it going to offend you if we refurbish it? Because a lot of people don't like that. They want it to stay in the condition that it ended up in. But for me, being a designer, I would hate for someone, because of neglect, that someone would think that that is what I presented on stage. And in reality, I wouldn't do that.
A picture can be worth 1,000 words, but when you actually have something that appeals to all the senses, which obviously is going on here.
Right.
Now, you wouldn't want everybody, like I was doing, touching the...
No. We only have really one costume that we allow the public to touch. And it's because a lot of people don't realize these showgirls, they're really magnificent people because their headdresses, their backpacks, their bras, their G-strings, their jewelry, everything was welded. Then it had soldered rhinestone chain on top of it. So not only were the women very strong, but the costumes had to be strong because we were doing anywhere from 13 to 16 shows a week back in the day. So they had to be made strong. So I always let people touch the welded bra that's downstairs, just so they see what the girls actually had to wear.
So I guess being tall wasn't so much just the aesthetic look too, but you would associate tall with strong.
Well, but in reality, the people also get a little confused. They think that there were always tall showgirls, and that's not true. There's many stages of showgirls. There's a pony. Do you know what a pony is?
No.
Pony are girls that are short. And the really big shows like Hallelujah Hollywood, Hello Hollywood, Hello, if they had a really huge stage, they would fill it up by hiring girls that weren't that tall. And those were the ponies. And they were usually covered girls, but they're very short compared to the other girls. The history of it, if you want any of that information, is that Madame Bluebell, who you and I spoke of, she had been working at the Folies Bergère providing the entertainment, the dancers. She was in charge of all the dancers. And then the real Miss Stingat, not the one that lives in Vegas now, the real Miss Stingat came in, and she didn't like that Madame Bluebell had control of the dancers. So she had her own dance group, and she got Madame Bluebell fired.
Oh, no, I never knew her.
Yes. And so what happened is Madame Bluebell, who had children and needed to make sure that they were supported, she talked to movie theaters that were in Italy. And the movie theaters had a whole chain of theaters. And they said to her, you know, if you could come up with something really unique, then we would give you a contract for all of our movie theaters. And so her unique thing was to insist that the minimum height of the girls be 5'8". And many of her girls were 6 feet and taller. And she's the one who truly started that statuesque tall situation.
Out of necessity, would you know?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny how that...
Of course, forever now, everybody thinks of showgirls as being tall.
Right, and then when
that's
you
where it
add
came
some
from.
of these fabulous headdresses, I've always known they were heavy. I mean, I think that's...
Not all. Not all
of them
no.
are heavy? No?
Some, yes, but not all. You know, the thing that people don't understand is that most of the framework that's used is stainless steel if they have a budget. A lot of times I haven't had a budget, so I use ungalvanized steel, and that makes it much heavier. But the stainless steel frames don't weigh hardly anything. But when you put thousands of feathers on and jewels and everything else, it does add to it. The most important thing is that they get something that is balanced. If it's balanced, then it can be heavy and it won't hurt the girl as much. Of course, if you talk to the showgirls of today, even the chorus girls and the showboys, many of them have health issues because of the fact that they had to wear these things.
Sure, and I think a lot of the dancers we have today, too, you know, all of that has stepped up a notch.
Right.
There's a lot more acrobatics, I would say, or like, you know, pole dancing, things of that nature. There's a lot of that in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of physical stamina.
Well, I think it also gets confusing because a lot of people think that strippers are the same thing as showgirls. And, you know...
Now, Bluebell's girls never went topless, isn't that correct?
Bluebells that were called Bluebells were covered girls.
Right.
But the reality is that there were topless girls that were associated with productions that she put out.
Dawn Arden's Julie.
Yes, exactly. And, of course, the Kelly boys... Her name was Margaret Kelly, and so the Kelly boys were the boys that she had in her groups. And, you know, incredible woman. Fortunately, I did get to meet her, and she was fascinating. One of my best friends in the world lived with her in her apartment in Paris while he was a dancer in the show.
Oh, my goodness.
And he learned everything that there is to know about being a showgirl. And it's hysterical. You see this guy with a beard and mustache and bald head, and in a matter of seconds, he can turn into a showgirl without any makeup or any costume or anything else, just with what they taught those girls. You know, they could just stand technically still and absolutely mesmerize the people in the audience. And, you know, I think that's an art in itself.
Oh, it absolutely is.
And that's why everybody wonders about our future museum. It's not just a museum. We'll have a 400 to 500 seat showroom showing people what the shows were actually like, and a full-time school. And in the full-time school, we will teach them all the showgirl techniques and all of the theater craft things that they need to know, so that in the future, when the little circus trend has disappeared from Las Vegas, then people can actually do really really incredible, fabulous shows again.
I'm loving everything I hear. I know what you're saying about
Not that I have any opinion of that.
But when you look at the craftsmanship that you've put into this and you know, the effort and the creativity, I have to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, which is the Red Roof Inn on Paradise across from the Hard Rock Hotel.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all, not one bill. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
The treatment doesn't get any better than what you receive at St. Jude. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
Well, I'm hoping that you all had as much fun as we had here at the fabulous private home of Grant Philipo, who's preserving all of our Las Vegas legacy with the showgirls and props and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, it's almost staggering the amount of memorabilia that this man has in his home, so much so that we're going to do a special second edition of That's So Vegas next week. It was way too much fun and way too much stuff to do in one short little half of an hour. So stay tuned next week. We're going to do part 2 of the fabulous Las Vegas Showgirl Museum, hosted by Christine McKellar and Grant Philipo. Until next week, I'm Christine with That's So Vegas.
1, 2, 3, 4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing 5, 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah.